Welcome to the first official weekly spark for January. And January, we're working with the color red. Now, I'm not one who usually does monochromatic stuff. That's partially why this feels like a fun challenge. Yes, I'm going to be working in a different book, doing my art history of pigment things, but I'm also going to do just a straight up spread in a book and have a focus on the color of the month. So I was recently at a friend's house. We were doing kind of a kind of freeform, spontaneous soul collage type day, and I found this painting of this woman. Trying to get the glare off that for you. It's from the early 1900s, Thomas Pollock Anschutz, but it's called A Rose. So I loved her, of course, because she was in this very opulent red dress. But the look on her face, she kind of has like a what the heck look on her face. She looks a little either incredulous or like she's smirking. So that captivated me because she's at her leisure, she's reclining, leaning on her hand, but she's totally got a WTF look on her face. I then found this crazy red monkey wallpaper. And the first thing that popped into my head was not my circus, not my monkeys. This is where I'm going to start this spread. I have pulled a bunch of different things. I've pulled some browns and some golds and some blacks as neutrals. I've pulled a bunch of different reds that probably won't all get used in the, even a little pink. Probably won't all get used, but I thought I would at least start out with a pile of paper that I could just grab from. And then I, of course, have all the materials. Paint, water-soluble crayons, inks, anything I want, right? So I'm not saying that it's going to be completely red. I am not looking at red as a color of anger. In this case, I'm not even really looking at it as a color of, life or death or passion. It really just is an interesting juxtaposition to me of these two things, and then the combination that they sparked in my head. So before I really dive into this and get out the gel medium and start tearing and collaging, I thank you for tuning in. I would love to invite you to subscribe to the channel for art journaling, inspirational videos, watching me work, how-to videos, at least once a week. And, click the notification bell, subscribe to the channel, do all those YouTube things. It really helps the channel a lot. I appreciate it. So let's dive into this. Not my circus, not my monkeys. So phase one, collaged everything in, tried to transition the dark to the more red, put in some monkeys. I do think somewhere I want to print. I pulled out some small letter stamps, not my circus, not my monkeys. That would be, I think, appropriate to bring it all together. I did the gesso smears here on the edges, kind of bring out some of the texture of the paper, but that's probably going to get tinted. It's very stark white right now, and with all this black, there's so much contrast. So I tried stamping some text into the gesso here. What I know for now is that this layer needs to dry, that I'm going to do some kind of tinting here on the edges for sure. I will probably stencil something here in this spot. It would make sense to me if I did some repeat circles to kind of play with that motif from that paper. So we'll see. It has to dry. So for right now, we're just going to call that stage one. Stay tuned. We'll see how this resolves. So it's the next day, and I'm just not sure what I want to do. The page feels very busy to me. This I like okay. This I like okay. Together, it feels very busy. While I like the idea of a circular motif to play off this, I think that this space might need a little visual rest. First thing I'm going to do is mix up like a sepia glaze with some gel medium and some just, Doc Martens watercolor ink. Because all where I put the white gesso, I want to tone it down. I want that kind of warm sepia tone. To me, that also gives a bit of a vinegar of age and matches her dress and her kind of period vibe. So if I do that first, that might tone down some of the brights. Maybe that'll simplify things for me visually a little bit. I pulled out this. I thought maybe like 3 repeat circles, but then that's going to be like a traffic light. I pulled out this because then I thought I could do a repeat motif, but I also pulled out this with text because if this goes sepia and I do some black text over it, that would be really mellow. I'm thinking that there may be tiny accents of gold at some point, but let's go sepia first and see what happens. Switch to a bigger brush because if I'm trying to simplify things, then more brush stroke is definitely not what I want. So I think this corner I want to push back. It's too bright. Much happier with this page now. Pulled out the star stencil as well. So I'm actually going to pull out black and fade out this corner. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try a thing. Just don't want it on her face. Yes, living dangerously. Note to self, don't do this with an open cup of coffee right on your journaling table. If you know, you know. It's getting better. Definitely getting better. I don't think we're done yet, but I think we're close. In a perfect world, I would wait until the ink, the gold splatter, dries before I try and go ahead and stencil in this bare area. But I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to live dangerously today. Yep, I like that. So I did get one circular motif there with that kind of cancellation stamp. Going to leave the music as is. One thing that I thought I was going to do that I now don't have room for is not my circus, not my monkeys. I would love to collage that in from old book page text. Now, the chances of finding those words, I mean, it would be ransom note style, right? Each word would be individual, but that old paper would be great. Well, let's take a look without this distraction. Yeah, definitely much happier with that. I tend to not like things that are too high in contrast and all this dark and all that white, especially with the red being such an intense color. That color palette was just all screaming contrast to me. Now, with the sepia toning down the lights, brings out some of the warm tones in her skin. There's still the humorous concept of the monkeys that appealed to me. I mean, it was just a random finding in a magazine. I like this kind of anchoring this corner, but not getting oppressively dark because we've got the gold splatter and some of the light coming through. So this is going to be our first weekly spark for the year of 2026, working with the color theme of red. So now I hope you can see that even though I'm working with the history of pigment and colors and doing kind of a watercolor sketchbook, scrapbook for some of my offerings of the month, I'm still going to be doing kind of the classic mixed media things that you might be familiar with from this channel. As always, thank you for tuning in. I invite you to subscribe, click, oh, well, that was in real time. One of the reasons why I love working in a sketchbook, right? You don't get too precious, you just turn the page. That was most of a bottle of the watercolor, the Hydrus watercolor ink in sepia. So let's make it work. And let's put the lid on before we do it again. Okay. Well, definitely now more moody, darker over there. Let's go a little darker over here then. Not a bad texture. Okay, now let's try that outro again. That exemplifies to me some of the reasons why I love art journaling. When that initially happened, was I alarmed? Yes. Was I not thrilled? Yes. Did I think about stopping the recording? No, I just decided I'd go with it. If this were a piece that I was working on for a gallery show and I had a deadline and I had a specific goal in mind, then yeah, I admit I would be more frustrated with that. But the joy of working in a sketchbook, it hasn't harmed any other pages. If it had, I could just turn the page. And I think there is a spontaneity to responding to how things happen Granted, that was not planned. That was not what you normally expect to happen, but it's fine. It didn't damage anything. I'll remember that when I look at this page in the future. I'm keeping it real. I'm doing this in real time. You saw that accident happen. You saw me roll with it. So if that kind of spontaneous and authentic art journaling appeals to you, stay tuned because there's going to be more. There's going to be more each week this month with my color theme. I did lose a lot of my gold. I could go in and gold splatter again. There, bring that back. Okay, I'm going to sign off now. I'm going to call this done. Best laid plans and whatnot. Stay tuned. I'll see you next week for another episode of Weekly Spark.